Hi everyone, it's Chris Moyes at the Vinyl Orchard, and back today with another video. Now, I thought today I'd have a go at the vinyl tag, so thank you very much Rob Walker for suggesting the questions. I'm going to give that a crack. Before I start, I just want to thank everybody who watches this channel. I've just noticed that I've had quite a few new subscribers recently, and I've gone over 800, so thank you to everyone who subscribes and everyone who watches and everyone who makes a comment as well. So thank you to those people, and thank you to Rob for setting these questions for this year's vinyl tag. So the first question was about your favourite record that you purchased in 2023. I found this really hard. I had a quick look back, and there wasn't one particular album actually that stood out, but I did have a couple of things that I almost regarded as grails. I wanted to find them at the right price. So the first one is Fenton Robinson and Somebody Loan Me a Dime. This is a lovely blues album actually, really understated guitar, really nice vocals actually. The title track was also covered by Boz Scaggs in a very long version that features Duane Allman doing an absolutely amazing guitar solo on. Much shorter on this album, but a beautiful album. I was really delighted to pick that up. That's on Sonnet Records. And the other one was a new wave of British heavy metal band, Praying Mantis, and Time Tells No Lies. This was an album that I was looking for a while. I've seen them live a couple of times. I saw them at Reading, and I saw them supporting Triumph back in 1980. And I've always been looking for this album. It's a really nice album. I love the Rodney Matthews. I think it's a Rodney Matthews. Yeah, Rodney Matthews cover. Lovers to the Grave, Panic in the Streets, Flirting with Suicide, really great song. A little bit more melodic than your average new wave of British heavy metal band, but that was an album I'd been looking for, and I was delighted to pick that up. So there's two albums that are my favourite albums from the year. The second question was the last album that you purchased in 2023. This is not my usual kind of thing actually, but I picked this up for £4 the other day, just before New Year in fact. So this is Metamatic by John Foxx. John Foxx obviously was in Ultravox, the version with the exclamation mark, and then he went solo, and this is, I think, his debut solo album. I'm kind of guessing it is actually. Now this came out in 1980, so I don't know who influenced each other the most, whether it be Gary Newman or John Foxx, which way around it was, but it's quite similar. It's quite sparse in places, quite primitive, but really interesting album actually. I don't know if in 1979 or 78 John Foxx went interrailing, but it's very, very influenced by, it has a European kind of feel to it, not just in its sound, which is very craft work in places, but also the kind of plaza and all the kind of content, if you like, the lyrical content of it. It sounds European, so really quite a nice album actually. I'm not synth pop's greatest fan, but I thought that was a really nice album just for £4. So that's the last thing that I bought. Question number 3 is a band or singer released 2 or more albums in the same year. There are a few examples of this, but for me there are 2 classic albums that came out back to back in 1977, and both were by the Ramones. This was the first one that came out, and this was not the first one I bought actually, I don't think. I think the other one is the one I bought first. But anyway, this I bought in either back end of 77, late 77, or very, very early 78. I know that I got one of these for my birthday, which is early in January, so I'm not sure which way round it was, but this is Leave Home, first of the 2. Fantastic album. Oh, oh, I Love Her So, I Remember You, Give Me Shock Treatment, Swallow My Pride. Just a wonderful album. Great album. That's their second album. Much better produced than their debut, which I like, but I think that's much better. This, for me, is their classic album, their third album, Rocket to Russia. Cretin Hot, Rockaway Beach, one of the greatest songs ever recorded. I love it. Locket Love, Sheena is a Punk Rocker, which I had as a single in 77. Played it to death, and I think that was the reason I bought this album. Teenage Lobotomy, their versions of Do You Want to Dance and Surfing Bird, which are just fantastic. I'm sure in sound and certainly in look, they influenced bands like Green Day, for example. So great album, great pair of albums from 77. Question number 4, if you could listen to music from one decade, which decade would you choose? 70s, undoubtedly. If I look back at, I've got all my albums on Discogs. If I look at that, probably most of the albums that I've got started about 66 to about 84, probably in that kind of era. And the vast majority of the 1970s, by far the best decade in my opinion. I know other people may have others, but I was a teenager in between 76 and 80, whatever, 82. So I'm bound to like that era more, but the 70s for sure. Show a record by a band or singer from Manchester. I'm a bit late to the party with the vinyl tag, and I've watched quite a few of them, and they've all chosen, the ones I probably would have chosen, like the Smiths or Joy Division and so on. So this is my contribution. This is the Nosebleeds, an Ain't Been to No Music School from 1977. It's on Rabid Records, whatever you'd say. This is a band, had Vincent Riley in it, which I think he went on to be in the rarity column, and I think this had, although they're not on here, Billy Duffy, who went on to play with the Cult, he started off in the Nosebleeds, as did Morrissey as well. He played with them, I think, before he formed, I guess, the Smiths. I don't know if there was an interim band. So there's the Nosebleeds, Manchester-based band, and Ain't Been to No Music School on Rabid Records. Question number 6 was, which band or singer do you listen to the most in 2023? I don't keep a record of this, but it's just a kind of a gut reaction, really. And that person is Tommy Bolin. Now, Tommy Bolin was the replacement for Ritchie Blackmore in Made in Japan. And many of you, if you've ever heard this album, will know it's an absolute lemon. Tommy Bolin, although a gifted guitarist, had also a fundamental flaw in that he was a drug addict. And that often impacted on his playing, as it did on here. I have no idea why they recorded the show, given that he couldn't play that night, and then put it out on vinyl. It's not one of their finest moments in their what is a great legacy. Last concert in Japan. Tommy Bolin, undoubtedly a great player. He went on to record just one album with Deep Purple, and that was Come Taste the Band. This is the 35th anniversary copy of it with Kevin Shirley remixes and so on. A really good album, Sounds really kind of fresh still, actually, but it's not really a Deep Purple album. It's more of like an advanced kind of James Gang album, band with which he did have a link. The reason he got that gig in Deep Purple was because they tried, I think, thought of a number of players: Rory Gallagher, Jeff Beck, Clem Clempson, a variety of players. And they went for him based on his performance on this album by Billy Cobham's Spectrum, which has a couple of tracks on it, Stratus being a famous example, and Quadrant 4, which shows a real incendiary quality to his guitaring. I know that Billy Cobham really rated him and said he came into the studio and just ad-libbed almost in one take quite a lot of the stuff on here. So a really good album. He also played alongside another jazz fusion drummer, Alphonse Mouzon, on this album. This is from 1974, I think. Not sure. I think it's about 74. I personally prefer Bolin's contribution on this album than I do on Spectrum. So he plays on Mind Transplant, Snowblind, Calm Dockside, I think he's on, Nitroglycerin. I mean, the guitar work is sensational, as is, of course, all the musicians on both these albums, absolutely brilliant. But his guitar playing on here is fantastic. Now, he did go and play with the James Gang, recorded 2 albums, Miami, which was the second one, and this one, the first one, which is Bang. This is the better of the 2. I think it shows his guitar work on it. Standing in the Rain, gorgeous guitar work on it. From Another Time, which is kind of Santana-esque. You must play this, actually, if you can find it on YouTube or Spotify. From Another Time, the guitar solo, it starts kind of jazzy, and then it really shows off his rock chops, and it just changes effortlessly into this kind of real beautiful rock guitar solo. He also does some singing on this as well. Great album, really, really good hard rock album. He also recorded a couple of solo albums. This was an album he recorded, I think, prior to joining Deep Purple, or virtually at the same time. This is Teaser. This is from 75. This is a great album. The track Dreamer is beautiful. And Wild Dogs is a tremendous song. And ironically, although he couldn't play, the best song on last concert in Japan is their version of Wild Dogs. So that's Tommy Bolin, who also had guest appearances. Bands like Moxie, their guitarist, I think, went AWOL. Tommy Bolin was a friend of, I think, the producer or the road manager or something, and then just stood in and played some guitar solos, some great hard rock tracks on that album. And there's a ton of remix stuff and rehash stuff, some of which is good, some of which is pretty basic, but that's a nice one that I bought this time last year, Whirlwind, which is just some studio outtakes and various noodlings and different versions, but really, really good. So that's the person I've been listening to the most in 2023. Show 7-inch records. Well, if you watch this channel a lot, you'll know I've got a lot of 7-inch singles. So I thought I'd show you 7-inch singles from 77. This was one of my favourite years, without a doubt. In fact, I should do a video just separately on 1977. 1977 produced one of the best singles of all time, in my opinion. Pretty Vacant by the Sex Pistols. We'll come to them later on, but the opening riff to this, the B-side No Fun, the visual kind of look of it, the video that they did for Top of the Pops, just quintessential Sex Pistols, just a defining moment of 77. I absolutely love it. 77 was also the year that I was introduced to an offshoot of Deep Purple, that's Rainbow. And my entry point to Rainbow was the live version of Kill the King, which came out before the studio version. So this is from the album On Stage, featuring Cozy Powell and James Dio. Absolutely brilliant version and a great single. I also really loved Thin Lizzy in 1977, although I don't particularly like this single. This is Dancing in the Moonlight, which is okay, but you know, when you are into punk and metal, at the age of 14, you don't really want to hear a saxophone solo in the middle of a hard rock song. So I struggled with Dancing in the Moonlight, but the B-side, Bad Reputation, is wonderful. And I managed, luckily, to see the band that year. I've saw them several times live. This was the first time. Saw them in Bournemouth. Around about Christmas time, I think, maybe a bit before, I can't remember. But that was in 1977 on the Bad Reputation tour, and they were very, very good. A song that I really like from 77 as well, and I do like this band. I don't play them very often, but I do like this band. I think this is a non-album track. In fact, I know it's a non-album track. And that's Match of the Day by Genesis on the Spot the Pigeon EP, which is a great song from, or great 3-track EP from 1977. I also loved this song as well from ELP, Fanfare for the Common Man. I was big into athletics in the 70s, and as a kid I became a county champion a couple of times over in 1977, and when you went up to get your certificate they played Fanfare for the Common Man. So fantastic music, fantastic single. I also really liked this as well, John Miles. I love the song Music, and I really love this song as well. And I used to go to like a disco. They always used to play Slow Down by John Miles. And so that brings back lovely memories from 1977. And very different from the stuff I usually listen to, but a song that reminds me incredibly of that era, actually, is I Feel Love by Donna Summer. A genre-defining song, I think, and still wonderful. I still really like it, actually. So that's 7 singles from 7 singles from 77. Who's coming to your party? Question number 8. Choose 4 music-related people to your imaginary dinner party. Well, that would be Led Zeppelin. Imagine having a dinner party and saying to your mates, "Oh, I've got a band playing, weather permitting, they'll be out in the garden, weather permitting. Oh, who have you got coming? Oh, I've got Led Zeppelin coming." You can just imagine that in a dinner party, Led Zeppelin playing in the background. It'd be absolutely amazing. Question number 9. We lost them. Choose 1 musician who passed away in 2023. I obviously thought about Jeff Beck because I love his work, but I know a couple of people have shown him, so I've gone for something other than Jeff Beck, and that guy is Bernie Marsden. So Bernie Marsden played with Whitesnake. He also played in Pace, Ashton and Lord, and as a solo artist as well. But I knew him from Whitesnake. This was, I think, their first album, Trouble. And I think he played on several albums, 5 albums possibly, up until Come and Get It, I think was the last one. This is my favourite, there he is there. This is my favourite of Whitesnake album, actually. This is Ready and Willing from 1980. So this is the one that has Fall for Your Loving, which is obviously one of their really big hits. I saw them a couple of times in 1980, actually. I saw them at the Reading Festival in 1980 where they headlined, or one of the headliners, I think. And I also saw them later on that year as well on the Ready and Willing tour. And there's Bernie Marsden at the front there. Fantastic musician, great singer as well. Had a really nice voice actually. So a real sadness. From all accounts, obviously I've never met him, but from all accounts, a lovely man as well. And I've seen him. He came on. I saw Deep Purple in Bristol back in the early 2000s, and he guested at that as well, which was lovely. Okay. Imagine you could only listen to music from one country. Which country would that be? Well, that's England or the UK if we spread it out. I love music from America. There's lots of music from France and Germany that I really like, but nothing touches the stuff that came out of the UK for me. It never will. Name 3 vinyl community channels that you discovered. Bruce Vinyl, discovered that recently. I think he's got 100 or so subscribers, so that's worth you checking out for sure. Richard Warwick as well. I've just discovered his channel this year, and he shows some stuff that is a similar era to me, shows some really interesting stuff as well. And a guy called Martin Leedham, whose channel is called Crushed Custard, who is really interesting fellow. He's got a really fantastic array of shirts. So Bruce Vinyl, Richard Warwick, and Crushed Custard, Martin Leedham, worth checking out. They were the ones that I discovered this year, so it's great to have them along in the UK version of the vinyl community. Question number 12. Show a record you bought when you were a teenager. Well, as I said, I was a teenager between 76 and 82, so I bought absolutely shed loads of records between that time. When I was a teenager, a younger teenager, 13, 14, 15, I couldn't afford many albums, pocket money. Albums were quite expensive actually. And I bought a lot of 45s, but also bought 12-inch singles. And I remember this. This is Spanish Stroll by Mink DeVille, being one of my favourite songs from 1977. I absolutely loved this song, and I bought the 12-inch, interest enough, for the 7-inch. I don't know why. Look at this, it's only got 2 songs. Look at the run out on that. Look, it's half the disc is run out, but the sound quality as a result is absolutely amazing. One of my favourite songs, without a doubt, from 1977. So that's one record that I bought when I was a teenager. Show a funk or soul record. Well, I struggle with this, not because I haven't got any, but I struggle with deciding. So the kind of more rock person within me kind of leant more towards Sly and the Family Stone and Stand. This is I Want to Take You Higher, Everyday People, Sex Machine. That's really funky. So this is a great album, but the album that I think just pips it for me in terms of my favourite funky kind of album is this one here by the Crusaders. This is called Those Southern Nights, Nights with a K. And this has got Spiral, Keep That Same Old Feeling, and then there were the blues, Feeling Funky. The groove on this is absolutely fantastic. It's got great musicians. Larry Carlton was a permanent member of the band by then. Oh, the groove on this is marvellous. I've got about 10, 12 albums by the Crusaders. This is probably my favourite. This is a marvellous album. This came out in 1976. Brilliant stuff. Show a record you think everyone has and a record you think nobody has. Well, I found this really hard, actually, really hard. I think an album that probably everybody has got is something like that. I think a few people have shown this. And I've watched quite a lot of these videos, these vinyl tag videos, and it's really hard to find something that people haven't shown. So, I guess this is something that people have got. I don't know which version this is, actually. What I do know is it's got a little card thing in it. I don't know what version that makes it, but... and to be honest, I bought that many, many years ago. I think I probably played it the day I got it. Have I played it since? Probably not. Albums that I don't think anybody's got. Now, this is really, or records I don't think anybody's got. This is really hard. So one of the first things I thought of was this album. This is Riff Raff and Vinyl Futures. Hypnosis cover. It's on Atco Records, a major label, from 1981. It's a really, really nice bit of kind of AOR rock. Really melodic stuff. Good band, really good type band. One of them, Doug Lubain, I think he was in a version of The Doors possibly. Good player. Nice vocals. Nina, Shades of Blue, Treat Me Right, which was covered by Pat Benatar. I Ain't Gonna Run Anymore. Some really melodic stuff on it. I don't know how many people have got that album, but I'm sure they have. And I thought, well, maybe that's not obscure enough. So I started looking jazz fusion. I've got quite a lot of jazz fusion albums, and I pulled out this. So this is Clive Stevens and friends. It's called Atmospheres. It's got some famous players on it. So John Abercrombie is on here, Steve Kahn is on here, Ralph Towner from Oregon is on here. The rhythm section from Mahu Vishnu Orchestra is on here, Rick Laird and Billy Cobham. So some famous players. But I bought this as a bit of a blind buy just based on the players on it, and actually it's a reasonable album. So I don't know if anybody on the vinyl community has got that one. But here's one that I think no one will have. But it's not an album, it's a single, and it's this one. Now, people watching this who are into Punk 45s will say, yeah, I've got that, and I've got it on green vinyl, Chris. Well, this is a black vinyl version of it. But I bet you haven't got the 78 RPM version of it. And the reason I bet you haven't is because allegedly there's only 50 of those made. And I bought it by accident, but it's worth quite a lot of money. That's probably my most valuable record, actually. So I'm making an assumption that this will be a record that no one will have in their collection. Be interesting if someone else has. Okay, next one. 15. She's great. A record by a female artist you bought in 2023. Interesting enough, I look back at what I bought and I haven't actually bought much by female artists. And I don't know if it's I just don't like them or I prefer a male voice to a female voice. So the only two I could think of that I bought in the last 12 months was Astra Gilberto, who we sadly lost. I could have used her for a previous question, actually. And the other one is Susie. So this is A Kiss in the Dream House with its Gustav Klimt-inspired cover. Great album. I showed this recently, actually. I love the opening song, Cascade. I love the guitar work on here. Very influential guitar work, I'm sure. But really nice album. So I don't possess actually many albums when I look back at all my collection of female singers, actually. So I just don't buy them very often. I need to maybe readdress that possibly in 2024. Okay. Show me, 16. The favourite video you posted on your channel in 2023 and the favourite video you watched. Okay, I don't really have a favourite video. I think my most successful one was my punk albums. 4,000 people watched that, which is amazing. My favourite ones are my least viewed ones, actually, which often happens, I think, on the vinyl community. So it's a series of 4. Which you're very welcome to go back and increase the viewing figures for. And they're 4 videos about a really lovely time of my life, actually, and it's the new wave of British heavy metal. So it's looking at kind of 78, 79, 80, 81, 82 kind of era of the new wave of British heavy metal, and I just show some stuff from there. So I really enjoyed making those, and they're probably my favourite videos, actually. The videos I like watching the most are generally vinyl finds videos. I love seeing what people have picked up and how lucky they've got sometimes. I love seeing those. But one channel, which is one of my favourite channels, is Phil Aston's Now Spinning magazine. Absolutely love that channel. He's a guy of a similar era from me. Used to play in a band and Handsome Beasts and knows his stuff really well. He's got a great channel. If you haven't checked it out, you must. And he's a big Deep Purple fan, and he does some really good kind of in-depth analysis. He's done one on Stormbringer Burn, Come Taste the Band, Made in Japan, and really, really good. Seems such a lovely bloke. I don't know Phil, but I'd love to know him. He seems such a nice man. So that's one of my favourite videos. Anything that he does, really. Show me, number 17, show me a record you describe as a 90s classic. Now, my record collection finishes around about 84, so I was struggling a bit for this, actually. And also, I wanted to show 2 vinyl ones, so I don't have much from 1990 on vinyl. So I could have picked this one, which is probably my favourite 90s album, actually. Love that album. But I think this one is the one that defines the 90s the most, actually. I love this album as well. It's kind of got dancey bits, it's got rocky bits on it, it's got, Moving On Up, which is probably the best song the Rolling Stones never recorded. I think this is just loaded, great song. I just think this is a really, really good album. It's got a wonderful groove to it. Very different to everything they did, I think, before and since. But one album I think would be a 90s classic, and I think defines the classic. I think a few people have chosen that one. If you could walk into a cover, look through your collection, choose a record cover you'd like to be part of, or undoubtedly this. This, for me, is the greatest live album ever recorded. It's one of the greatest albums ever recorded. For an album that's recorded in 1972, the sound quality is absolutely stunning. No overdubs, clear as a bell. Martin Birch, long departed, or not that long departed, but died in the last 5 years. Wonderful production on this. Probably the best these songs have ever been played. I would love to be one of these people here. I've got a sneaking suspicion that both of these pictures aren't actually taken from Japan. And I think there is I don't know if it's an urban myth or it's truth, that Phil Collins from Def Leppard is actually in the crowd here, I think. Whether he is or not, I don't know. But I would have loved to have been at one of these concerts round about this time to see this band performing at that absolute height. So wouldn't that have been amazing? Okay, it's like a greatest hits. Show a record you're familiar with that feels like a greatest hits. Well, to be honest, that probably is any one and done album, isn't it? And for me, this is a greatest hits. You know, bar a couple of kind of, you know, really poor spin-off singles, their best songs, their only songs, with Johnny Rotten as their vocalist, are on this album. Defines punk for me. It's got quite a metal production actually, though. It's a brilliant rock album. I think this is superb. You know, Anarchy in the UK, Pretty Vacant, Holidays in the Sun, God Save the Queen, Body is one of my favourite songs by them. This is a greatest hits because it is the only songs they really ever did. So that's a wonderful album. That's probably the greatest hits one. And then show me an album, last question, show me an album that was released in 1977. So I'm going to show two. I know it's cheating a bit, but one has a kind of a different interest value as well. So the first one is this one. This is the second album. Is it the second album or third album? Certainly it's part of their, what they call their black and white period. It could be either their second or third album. This is from obviously 74. Secret Treaties by Blue Oyster Cult. Often seen as their best studio album. Personally, I think it is. Subhuman, wonderful. ME262, which is that thing, wonderful. Harvester of Eyes, Flaming Telegraphs, and I think their defining moment, which is Astronomy. Better live than it is in the studio, but a wonderful, wonderful song. I'm sure you would have heard that. If you haven't, you must play Astronomy. But I'm going to choose probably as predominantly the album that was released in 74 that's got the greatest kind of memory for me. And it's this one, and it's nowhere near, for me anyway, it's nowhere near as good as that Blue Oyster Cult album. This is Quo from 74. Break the Rules is probably, I think, Drifting Away, was that a single or was that a B-side? Break the Rules was definitely a single off it. Has one track on it called Slow Train. I hate drum solos, but that track has a drum solo on it, which is the best drum solo ever put on vinyl. It's marvellous. Quite a long song, it's about 8 minutes long. But the reason I'm showing this is because in 1974, I went to see the band on this tour. I was 11, and this was the first band I ever saw. Actually, the first band I ever saw was the support band, which was Montrose. So if you know of them, that's a pretty good gig. But wow, this was a great. I was only 11. I just remember the sound and my chest throbbing with the kind of vibration, but also the smell. It's full of bikers, and you could just see all this denim and hair going everywhere, and the smell was two things: patchouli oil, and also what I found out later was dope. And so at 11 I went to see Status Quo. So there's my album from 1977. So there we go. Happy New Year, everybody. That's my vinyl tag. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing, and thank you for everyone who's contributed to this tag, especially Rob, who set the questions. Cheers everybody, catch up soon. Bye bye.